Hello everyone, my name is William Gaddis and I'm the environmental artist.
My name is Tucker Grimm. I'm the programmer.
I'm Jack Riley. I handle audio and narrative.
I'm Kyle Trottier. I did character art.
And welcome to our MQP presentation of Reckoning. The Wild West is a brutal, lawless wasteland. Griffin, the leader of a dangerous bandit organization, kidnapped your son almost a year ago. Jump into the thrilling finale of a Wild Western revenge story as you fight back against the people who have wronged you.
While making Reckoning, we took inspiration from several Wild West media, such as films like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Tombstone, and Silverado. These films informed much of our environmental and character design. We also used Red Dead Redemption 2 as an example of minimal UI and a realistic Western setting, as well as the Carl of Juarez while making our dueling mechanic. In The Reckoning, we wanted to explore sexism in the Wild West. Very few Western films had a female protagonist, and whenever there was an active female character, they either flaunted their sexuality, what we termed as the belle, or they hid the fact that they were a woman, something we called the disguised kid. We wanted to give the player the choice of which stereotype they depicted themselves as. However, this wasn't able to make it into the end game, so instead we focused on the Revenant, or this incarnation of revenge, seeing as how vengeance plays a very key role in many Western stories, such as the classic Wyatt Earp vendetta in Tombstone, as well as Mel and Emmett's revenge quest in Silverado. Lastly, it wouldn't be a proper Western story without evocative villains. In this case, Griffin is a gang leader based on the McKendrick gang in Silverado, since the gang terrorizes and essentially occupies the nearby town.
Once we had our concept, we developed the overall goal of our game. Reckoning is a side-scrolling shooter with two main gameplay mechanics, cover-based combat and dueling. Additionally, we wanted the game to be suspenseful and immersive. The gameplay is slower and deliberate rather than fast-paced, reloading takes a while, and bullets have high damage. The game also needed to have a rugged and lived-in aesthetic to better create a suspenseful and believable atmosphere.
For our engine, we decided to use Unreal Engine 4, as we had prior experience with it. It boasted many integrated systems, and its Blackboard visual programming system is easy for people with little programming experience to understand and use. As for source control, we used Perforce, as it integrates well with the Unreal Engine and handles Unreal Engine's unique file types without issue, something other source control systems don't do. For the game itself, we initially intended to use a pre-made side-scroller kit to speed up development time, but it proved inaccessibly complex and had many features we would not use in our game. Instead, we abandoned the kit and built all our systems from scratch using our own knowledge and numerous online tutorials. This ended up helping us, as it allowed us to be more flexible with the systems we implemented, instead of relying on less flexible pre-made systems.
For our characters, we wanted them to look like they belonged in the Wild West. We drew inspiration from many different movies and games, like the ones we previously mentioned, as well as actual Western clothing. Due to the state of the town and the level, we wanted characters to have more worn and dirty clothing, especially for the player, as she has been on the road for some time. On the left, you can see the initial designs for some of the members of the gang that act as enemies in the game, followed by concept of Griffin, our main antagonist, on the bottom right, and lastly our player character in the top left. Most of the concept art was made by Emma Lowry, who helped us a lot by designing and modeling some of the enemy characters. We started off modeling inside of ZBrush with simple shapes and slowly added detail, and eventually had them rigged inside of Mixmo. This helped us speed up and automate the rigging process, as well as ensure characters had similar skeletons so that they could share animations, which were made inside of Maya. To finish up a character, we used Substance Painter to give them high quality textures. The enemies were initially designed to be modular and have interchangeable heads and bodies. However, we shifted towards having different textures instead, which you can see in the top left. The other enemies below that are based off Emma's original concept, as well as Griffin, and the final model for the character can be seen to the right.
Our game is split into 4 sections: Outskirts, Town, Horse Chase, and Forest. The Outskirts serves as a tutorial section with few enemies. This allows for the player to learn the controls and mechanics of the game. The Town is where things ramp up. It serves as a test of the player's skills. There are more enemies in the town and a duel in the middle. The Horse Chase section shows off the sweeping vistas of our world, as well as moving the player to the forest where the final duel happens. The final duel section takes place in a quiet and somber forest, a good place to end a story of revenge.
Once we had the level planned out, we knew we had 3 main areas to work on. We needed a setting that would believably have both desert and forest, as well as be home to a wild western town. We decided to create the fictional town of Charity Springs, set in eastern Utah, that used to be a silver mining town before it fell into disrepair in the late 1800s. This setting ensured that the location was both geographically and historically accurate. The outskirt and desert region were inspired by the stereotypical western look of regions such as Monument Valley in Utah. On the left, you can see concept art, and on the right, you can see actual in-game renders of how the two compare. The town was inspired by concept art such as the one seen on the left, but our town of Reckoning is designed to be worn down and semi-abandoned. Because of this, many buildings have worn paint, dirt, and scratches on them. Finally, the forest was made to resemble arid alpine forests that appear around the Colorado Plateau region. You can see on the left, again, concept art, and on the right, final in-game renders of our completed environment. One problem that our team had was to create enough assets to replicate an entire town. Doing this building by building would require too many models and slow down our workflow. To resolve this problem, we decided to work modularly. Besides a few key buildings, most buildings in the level were made out of combinable wall pieces that can fit together like Legos. You can see these on the bottom right as separate different pieces for fronts, sides, backs, etc. We also modeled doors, windows, awnings, signs, and other decorative pieces separately from the buildings, so they could be placed any of number ways to create limitless variation within buildings. In the following image, you can see the different windows and doors textured and brought into the game engine. These could then be duplicated in any different number of layouts to create a variety of buildings as seen on this final screen. This only has 2 different wall pieces, yet because of the variety of textures, additional details, and layouts, the buildings are nearly limitless.
In Reckoning, the purpose of sound design is to add to the cinematic experience. So, using Reaper, we focused on unobtrusive ambience and sound effects. However, we did have some sounds that augmented visual cues. For example, whenever you fire your gun, there's a click that follows it. This click increases in pitch and volume as your ammo decreases, allowing you to keep track of your ammo without looking at the ammo counter if you're listening carefully. Additionally, we decided to use voice lines instead of text boxes for character dialogue. Because none of us had any experience doing this previously, we spent a large amount of time recruiting students from IMGD, performing auditions with the voice actors, and performing recording sessions with live directing.
For playtesting, we had 3 major testing experiences: a paper prototype, Alpha Fest, and Made in Mass. For the paper prototype, we drew our level on paper and had testers navigate using cutouts so we could get a feel for pacing, level design, and story. This can be seen in the top right. Alpha Fest focused on basic mechanics, while Made in Mass tested the refined mechanics as well as the dueling mechanic. From these tests, most feedback was about lack of user interface or heads-up display, as well as awkward controls for aiming and enemy placement around the map, which we then used to better improve our game.
There were several parts of the game we cut. One such part was an RPG aspect of the game, where you would talk to NPCs, and they would react to your character based on how the player presented them. Additionally, we cut out 2 parts of the level, one taking place in a saloon and the other in a mine. We intended to have Z-axis shooting and cover as well, but that got cut due to time constraints. We ended up not using the pre-made kit, which did cost us some time. Additionally, we did not have source control early on in the project.
We were happy with how the visuals and aesthetics of the game turned out. Our models and textures all had detailed and worn-in visuals that complemented the game nicely, and we repeatedly got positive feedback during gameplay sessions about our art. Additionally, Unreal Engine and Perforce had very good integration once the source control was finally up and running. This allowed us to quickly share large file projects and sped up our workflow. The dueling mechanic was well realized, and the cinematic feel and tense gameplay of them lent to a positive atmosphere for our game. Finally, the voice acting ended up working really well, and all the impressive voice actors that we managed to recruit brought a lot of our characters on screen to life. We would like to thank Professors Ralph Sutter, Jennifer deWinter, and Mark Claypool for giving us support, feedback, and advice during the development process. We'd like to thank Emma Lowry for providing us with character concept art and modeling. We'd like to thank all of the helpful playtesters who gave us useful feedback during the process of creating Reckoning. Thank you.